I always find a couple of hecklers. I kind of look at them, stare at them, and let them know I can't be stopped. Jermaine O'Neal said that, and I'm saying this. Welcome to High and Low. Good day and good night. Welcome to the High and Low Basketball Podcast. This is episode number 100 and Lang, aka episode number 128. 28 was the jersey number worn by former journeyman center Andrew Lang. Lang was drafted 28th overall by the Phoenix Suns and had a respectable 12-year career in the NBA, wearing the number 28 on all 9 teams that he played for. I guess we know why he chose the number 28, drafted 28. So here are a few players that were selected after Lang. Vinny Del Negro, Vernon Maxwell, Mad Max, even Al Horford's dad, Tito Horford, was drafted after Lang. Knicks legend Anthony Mason.
I love Anthony Mason.
Oh yeah. So does Biggie Smalls.
I love his free throw shooting form.
You guys know that Anthony Mason was the person that Biggie Smalls was talking about.
Man, what was he? I don't know if I did know that. I thought it was Chris Childs, but I guess not.
One of them 6'5".
Oh yeah. Chris Childs was shorter than that. I thought Anthony Mason was taller.
I don't think Biggie Smalls can tell between 6'5" and 6'8". But hey, Steve Kerr was also drafted after Andrew Lang, believe it or not. Well after Andrew Lang. But anyway, enough about Andrew Lang. Shout out to you. My name is Ike Amaechi, and I'm joined by Hugo, our resident Sheik, Mitch Orsatti, a.k.a. Sir Mitch of House Orsatti, and Sean the Don Khan. Well, that's Sean Khan. Around here, we live by the principle governed by the high and low lives of the world, which means we talk about basketball, especially and specifically the NBA, and we talk about it at any time, anywhere, north, south, east, west, high and low. This week on High and Low, we're going to talk about the level of criticism NBA players receive when and just when it goes too far. Can it go too far? You know, can we use the B word when describing the extreme types of criticism some players receive? I don't know. Perhaps you feel NBA players can't be bullied because they sign up for it when they sign those multi-million-dollar contracts. We'll get into that shortly, so stay tuned. Before we lock in, let's check in. For the first time in a long time, Hugo, Mitch, and Sean are on the show at the same time. It's like you guys are like ships sailing in the night, passing each other, or whatever, however that saying goes. We've kind of slipped into this me plus 2 flow as of late. Gone are the days when all 5 of us are on the podcast at once. Does this feel crowded to you guys, or you feel good?
No, this feels nice. This feels nice.
Good. As long as Sean behaves himself.
Wow. Already getting started. All right. Anyway, Hugo, Mitch, Sean, I appreciate your time this week. Thank you for joining me. Listeners, high and low lives everywhere, thank you for joining us for yet another installment of the program. Another week, another episode, more NBA, some more high and low. So this week in NBA history, the league made an important leap. On October 31st, 1950, Earl Lloyd became the first black player in the NBA when he took to the floor for the Washington Capitals versus the Rochester Royals. The Capitals lost the game 78-70, but it was a victory for Earl Lloyd, the black community, and let's be honest, the NBA, based on the talent and success African-American players would bring to the association for decades. As for Earl Lloyd, the All-American from West Virginia State University, who was drafted by the Capitals in the 5th round of the 1950 NBA draft. 101st overall, by the way. He played 9 seasons in the league before moving on to the coaching ranks. The 6'5" small forward won a chip. In 1955, as a member of the Syracuse Nationals. Never made an all-star team, with career averages of 8.4 points per game and 6.4 rebounds per game. However, Earl Lloyd was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2003, but it's because of his sheer impact, the impact of his presence on an NBA roster in the 50s. Lloyd opened doors for countless to follow and will always be remembered for this. I think that supersedes a dozen NBA titles and accolades, in my opinion.
Was he ever a head coach?
He was, good question, actually. Earl Lloyd was the first African-American assistant coach and was named head coach for the 1971-72 season for the Detroit Pistons.
Okay.
Yeah. So
good to know.
Look at that. Earl Lloyd. Anyway, that's a little something for the NBA history nerds. Things are certainly happening in the NBA today, so let's talk about it.
Let's talk about something important.
The Lakers are trash. Street Clothes is living up to his name as he suffered yet another injury, and everybody hates Russ. That is all. All right.
That is not all.
Anyway, before I move on, because I really do want to move on, the season is young. Do you guys have any comments on the young season? Anything stand out to you? A lot of things happening.
Yeah, tons of stuff happening. Storylines emerging that, weren't expected. Portland, big surprise. Philly being this bad, big surprise, especially when their three big people are contributing at such a high level. It's fun. It's exciting. I'm so glad to have the NBA back.
Utah not being 0-5 is a big surprise.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. Paolo Banchero crushing it and being 0-5 with the Magic.
Yeah. That's like
Stern
LeBron in his rookie year.
Silver threatening about the tanking and trying to
That's hilarious.
relegate teams to the G League.
I actually like
good
that.
luck with that one.
But like basketball, I mean, I don't feel like there's teams out there, like players are not tanking, right? You go out there and guys are trying their hardest. But you have the players that you have in your roster. You have to, like they're not. I mean, it's really hard to tank in basketball. Is all. I'm saying.
Yeah, you need to construct the roster so that it can tank. Like the
Yeah,
Spurs.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
You can have guys that are trying, but they ain't that good. So yeah.
They just won't be able to try hard enough.
Exactly.
It's also like I'm seeing a lot of like way too early knee-jerk reactions on a lot of things, like stats and certain things, like the Kevin Durant plus minus. He's like the worst plus minus in the NBA. That's a complete way too early knee-jerk reaction, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So it's also that time of year for stuff like that.
So early. I'm counting the games until certain teams start to like pull the plug or shift directions and
this player out for this amount of time, bogus injuries. Yeah, it's coming sooner than ever. I think this year.
I'll say this: I do like how quietly Milwaukee's just going about their business.
Oh, Giannis has looked so good.
Yeah, just no rah. Just let's do our business and don't worry about it. I do like how Phoenix has been performing since the drama. But honestly, and I know it's easy pickings, but god damn those Lakers. Just when you thought last season it couldn't get any worse, and right out the gate, I don't know if
it's worse.
I guess they're not going to get rid of Ham. Yeah, I don't. I guess
it's not
Did
Ham.
they really
No,
drop
wait.
Ham? Okay,
No.
so it's not Ham.
It's
So,
the roster
what's-
construction. We just talked about this. It's a terrible, terrible roster.
Yeah, but you
They're
brought
the
it
worst
back.
shooting team in the 3-point era, probably
Yeah,
ever.
you brought it back. Can you imagine? Do they just? Is this all a ploy for them to get Victor Wembanyama?
No, because they can't, man. They don't own that pick. if they finish in the bottom, it goes to New Orleans, man.
Even worse now, right? So it's but you can't pull the plug on the season because you're going to look even 10 times worse. You're basically wasting LeBron. LeBron has basically gone on autopilot. I've seen some clips of this guy, and I'm like, is he just out for points this year? It's my self stats. That's all I care about this year. You know what I mean?
The only recourse they have is trading those 2 first-round picks and packaging Russ or AD or whoever, and they don't want to do it. Rightfully so, because they're going to be terrible for a good while, I think.
It's too late.
But if they're not going to, it's too late. Yeah. So if you're not going to do it, then just blow it up. Blow it up and get what you can for what you can.
If they were to make that offer to Indiana today,
Yeah.
Indiana would be looking for an additional pick. It's like, nah, 2 first-round picks.
And Miles Turner's hurt now, right? Too, right? So
Exactly.
Okay.
that's out.
If we're rewinding, let's take the Kuzma and KCP for Westbrook trade back then, because that's where it all.
Oh yeah, they never should have done that.
Yeah.
They never should have. So I'm going to put this out there. What's the over/under where the Lakers start to panic and say, "Okay, God, we got to do something"? How many games?
20 games. That's what I said.
They say 20.
I would say like 20
It's gotta
games
be
ago,
less.
dating back to last season.
So if they go 0-20,
no,
you don't think they're
not
already
going
passed?
They're not going 0-20.
What?
I mean, they might be 5-15, and that's
Look
panic
at their
mode.
schedule. Let's see their schedule.
We've spent far too much time talking about an 0-20 team.
Yeah, that's true. Sorry. I just wanted to piss off the special guest.
Ike Amaechi there, man.
I just want to upset the special guest. That's all.
All right. Well, we'll watch them. We'll continue to watch them implode. And hey, high and low lives. Just a reminder: if you want to leave a question for us to answer on the show, there was no question this week for me to answer. There are usually a couple questions just lying around, but this week I felt like, hey, let's just jump right into the Lakers are trash. I felt like that was appropriate.
I could do a whole episode of
that. Hey, maybe we will.
Love it.
Maybe that'll force a special guest to make an appearance.
I feel like this episode could turn into that based on the
It's
topic.
true, yeah. We could
Possibly. Hey, if you do want to leave a question for us, you can drop a DM on TikTok at More High and Low, Instagram at Get High and Low. Those links, you can find those in the show notes. But let's take a quick break before we get into some serious discussion about the B word. Or does it even exist when it comes to NBA players? Maybe they make too much money for us to say that they get treated that way. Anyway, we'll be right back with More High and Low. This moment is brought to you by High and Low listeners. This week, we had listeners tell us who they love to hate. Yes, the top 5 players they love to hate. We heard from Maurice in Allentown, Pennsylvania. Shout out to all the High and Low lives in Pennsylvania. Let's start with number 5. Maurice has DeJounte Murray. Number 4 is Cat, Karl Anthony Towns. My advice to Cat, it's always best to let your game say more and let your mouth say less. Number 3 is AD, Anthony Street Clothes Davis. I mean, hey, listen, the injuries aren't his fault, but it's hard not to get frustrated. Number 2 is AD's teammate, Patrick Beverley. And the number 1 guy, Maurice's favorite player to hate, and it's not Russell Westbrook, sorry, Sean, is Draymond Green. And not because of the punch or the technicals. According to Maurice, it's Draymond's complete inability to improve his offensive game during his career. That's a very fair point. Hard to watch at times, like I have to admit. But, I think what you're talking about is scoring. He just hasn't been able to show any sort of ability to score. Anyway, great list, Maurice. Now, let's get back to the High and Low experience. We are back. I'm Ike Amaechi, and I'm here with Mitch Orsatti, Sean Khan, and Hugo the Sheik. I'm going to stand on my soapbox labeled hypocrite just for a moment. And I'm going to say this. Fans and media alike, including us on this show, have made an industry out of critiquing every detail of the NBA, most notably its players. There are many people on TV, on the radio, on podcasts that have achieved high levels of success because of criticism. They've been able to scrutinize players for their on-the-court and off-the-court antics. It's become another segment of the NBA economy, another piston in the engine that is the game of basketball. Criticism fuels the news cycle. Analysts find every reason to poke holes in a player's game. Fans find every reason to hate the star of the opposing team. And it all convenes on every corner of the internet, like Duchesne and Sully getting peas, selling food with the road man. Shout out to Top Boy. We were just talking about that off before the show. If you haven't watched that show, do yourself that favor. Anyway, criticism is at an all-time high. We've seen it play out with Russell Westbrook. Damian Lillard has been abused by the likes of Stephen Leslie on this very show. Kyrie Irving has been ridiculed for his personal beliefs and perspectives on this very show and
I'll
everywhere else. Ben Simmons has been harassed because he would rather not shoot a 3. And that's a key word there, harassed. When does criticism get labeled as harassment? And when does harassment get labeled as bullying? When are those lines crossed? So let's jump back to Russ for a moment. He's taken an amazing amount of criticism the last several seasons. And here's that word again. The harassment seems to be peaking this particular season. I mean, the numbers don't help, but hey, it is what it is. Can this level of media criticism and fan harassment be defined as bullying? Bullying? What do you guys think?
I'm not calling it bullying. I'm calling it heckling. And heckling can be inappropriate at times. But you know what? Like, these guys make way too much money for me to be concerned about them being heckled. I feel like it comes with the territory. Russ gets people kicked out of games all the time, so the bullies are getting their punishment. So that's the price.
I thought it wasn't bullying
or whatever. Like that's a price you pay. When you make millions of dollars and are a celebrity. So I don't really have any sympathy for him or any athlete that gets heckled. Personally.
Wow.
Wow. Russ is absolutely getting bullied. I don't think there's a question about it. He takes a massive amount of criticism, not just from hecklers, Sean, from media personalities, from internet trolls, other players in the league, and everywhere in between. I mean, you talked about the numbers. He doesn't make it easier on himself with the way he's playing or by, skirting around questions and answering them, dismissively, and how he's interacting with his teammates. But should that be his responsibility? I think from a job perspective, probably a little bit yes, but from an expectations perspective, I don't know, maybe not. I think as with any level of Schadenfreude, a line is eventually and repeatedly crossed, right? So you might start off by calling him Westbrook, but then he's getting death threats. His family's getting death threats, and calling him all kinds of uncalled for stuff, and it gets dangerous, right? Yes, athletes make an exorbitant amount of money, but I don't think that excuses the behavior and the repeated treatment that they receive.
I don't even think it's the hecklers that are bothering him. I feel like it's the fact that he's playing like trash and not living up to his paycheck that's actually bothering him. And if it's not, that's what it should be, because what people say don't matter.
Well, I mean, that's easy for you to say as someone who doesn't get horrendous things said about them regularly.
Yeah, that sucks. It's just a situation, but I mean, I think looking back, when he retires and he walks away from the game, he'll look back on his career and he'll think about all the great things he's accomplished, the great moments he's had playing basketball, and that far outweighs any of these negative comments. And I feel like he'll be all right. It's his mental health. Yes, okay, it might be an issue, but that's not our job to consider that. That's his job. And there's a lot of resources out there for wealthy people. So I mean, I'm not worried about him. I don't feel bad about criticizing him. I personally don't attack his family or I call him stupid.
You've called him dumb. Yeah,
I call him stupid and dumb, but I'm referring to how he plays. What he does on the basketball court is dumb in basketball terms. I'm not saying he's a dumb person.
You're talking about his basketball IQ.
Basketball IQ, yeah. I don't attack his his personal stuff, but it can obviously be inappropriate, but I mean, he'll be all right, I think.
All players get harassed, heckled, bullied. I just feel that this year Russ is in the ire of the casuals and the idiots who don't follow basketball in any way, shape, or form.
Well, that's a very offensive way to put it.
It's easy to sit there and say the Lakers are losing because of Russ. But if you actually watch the games and even take a nice summary of what happened last year, he was probably the most available player on that team. I think he played the most minutes on that team.
I don't know if his availability is the issue.
No. But I'm just saying,
is available every night too.
But what I'm saying is, as a player, as a Hall of Famer, as a top draw, he was out there playing more than street clothes and more than LeBron, right? So there's always ways of flipping it and looking at it from different angles and different perspectives, right? So Russ, yeah, I believe he's being bullied. It's par for the course. It's par of being an NBA superstar. But yes, when you start talking about his family, death threats and whatnot, that's just too far. And people feel like when somebody is not performing well or not performing to their standard, that they can take liberties with them, which is definitely not fair. Now, as it pertains to the media, I feel that it's lazy work, right? It's easy to pick on Russ, right? When you hear everybody doing their own little monologues and soliloquies about how bad Russ is playing and whatnot, I mean, that's easy work, right? That's something my 7-year-old could do with his eyes closed. So, if it works for the sports media landscape and it makes ultimately these networks make money to talk about Russ, they're going to do it. Like now we're talking about Russ and we're hoping people will listen to us. It is what it is, right? I mean, Curry's wife got it last year. People talking about how she can't cook. LeBron, God knows what that man goes through. He had the N-word spray painted on his house and all this other stuff. So, I mean, it happens to all of them. It's just this time around, it's Russ, and it's easy to pick on Russ.
Man, I don't know, but this time around, like this is years now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and I get what you're saying, and I understand why you're taking that perspective and that stance. But these are not real death threats. Like, there's not, like death threats come from
what?
From your own city, from your own fans for you not performing well. These are people from other stadiums or that are other fan bases. These are not real death threats. Okay,
there's no such thing as not a real
so
death
they're empty death threats. Come on.
Do you know how many female athletes have posted on social media about the most vulgar, worst things that someone could say to a person? That they're getting,
and you're willing to dismiss those things because they're not from their city.
I'm just saying these are not real threats. Okay, these are just
how could you know that?
Stupid anonymous people.
Does
that
it
are
matter? Does it matter that it's a real threat or not?
Essentially trolls. It does matter. These are essentially trolls that are just trolling. They just have
you can't weed all that out, man. You can get 10,000 fake death threats, as you're saying, and one of them could be real. Come on, that's crazy.
I guarantee you, he'll never get murdered.
Are you sure?
I am sure, 100% sure. I would be willing to bet my life.
All right. I remember a tennis
player
player got stabbed.
Were to get murdered, it would probably be him.
Okay. Listen, all I'm saying is, if you're saying that kind of stuff, you've already gone too far. It doesn't matter if you mean it or don't mean it. I don't know how you determine if it's real or fake, just because you have to wait a week to see if they actually come and kill you. It shouldn't even be said. Period. There's no place for it. No place.
It's easier said than done to block it out or whatever. Right? And it's yes, we should have sympathy for people dealing with a situation, but I mean, I don't know, man. He should be able to just block it out. Obviously, in the stadium when people are yelling at you, it's hard to not hear that. But all the other noise around you, like the social media stuff, come on, man, just block it out and move on with your life.
You guys mentioned the online trolls. I heard that a couple of times.
Yeah, keyboard warriors.
Yeah, I think we've labeled them.
Hold on. I got another one. This is a good one from Rick Ross. Typewriter snipers. I like that.
Typewriter snipers. I love that. I mean, they aim to kill. They really go as hard as you can and as often as you can at players. And I mean, you can label that as criticism, but what's the difference between that and the behavior that we've defined as bullying? Like what's the difference between that?
Because they're not children. I feel like children get bullied. Adults shouldn't get bullied.
It's not just
adults
children.
get bullied.
Bullying is bullying. It doesn't matter where it takes place.
This is not it's just anonymous, right? I don't know if that matters, but
yeah. But when you say it's anonymous, you make it about the person who's doing it to the other. Bullying is more about the victim. You know what I mean? It's the person on the receiving end and how it's making them feel, right? So
I guess
if the criticism is coming the way of the players, just like it would come the way of anyone that's being harassed in the workplace or being harassed on the schoolyard at recess, it's about how it makes that person feel. And so what's the difference between that and what's happening with the players?
Because there's no schoolyard or recess.
And I'm telling you, you with your steady hand, I am not moving, and now I have got the steady hand.
So first of all,
Sean's like, he's like, I'm sticking to this.
All right, look, I mean,
go ahead, Mitch.
The internet. Let's just start here. The internet took bullying to a whole nother level. Like,
exactly.
And you know what? A lot of it's hilarious. Let's get that out of the way. There's great memes and GIFs, and the broken recorder track played along to Russ's Bricks. All that is funny, and that's fine. And we dog on basketball players. We build them up on here on a weekly basis. You were just talking about that. But there are definitely times when we and other podcasts and other media people contribute to the zeitgeist, the echo chamber of shitposting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Does it make it any different than an IRL bully? Does it make it worse? Does it matter?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think we circle back to what we were talking about earlier, right? Like, these are athletes who are humans being treated as less than because they have public eye, status, money. Like, that's not right. And I'll cop to this here, even when it's someone's stances like Kyrie's, who I think, many of us vehemently disagree with, we're allowed to voice our opinion about it as to why, but there are people, and it feels like it's becoming more and more and more and more that take it too far, and it gets personal and it gets ugly, and it feels like it should be reined in, but I don't know whose responsibility it is to do that.
Pandora's box.
Yeah,
well, is it even possible?
No, good.
To do
that.
And this is why I say at some point the internet is going to get ruined, because every time you have this kind of nonsense, there are policy people, governments that are sitting there saying, well, if this guy's going to be anonymous and talk this crap, this is the result. So now everybody's going to be identified on the internet. And then when you say stupid stuff like that, you'll be held accountable, right? Yeah. It goes in cycles, right? Every time people do dumb stuff on the internet thinking that they're immune, governments are trying to put in laws so that they know what's up. And I know we've talked about this in the past, but that's why you see what you see in China. Because you do something and they don't like it, you just disappear for a while.
Yeah, it's a morbid version of accountability, right? Like in terms of the Chinese example. If it's in person, people are more reluctant to say something out loud, and I saw this in a funny clip with Russell Westbrook. He was going down a tunnel after a game.
Oh, yeah.
And a person was heckling him. Russ was walking by with a handler and disappeared into the tunnel. The guy heckled him and said something pretty atrocious. And then 2 seconds later, Russ reappeared and looked right at the guy and said, "What did you say?"
So say that to my
and
face.
Come on, Westbrook! Westbrook, you suck ass!
Lakers are 0-2. Lakers return home this Sunday afternoon, 12:30 tip-off against the Portland Trail Blazers.
Talking to you.
Everyone here at Crypto.com,
We need you. My brother loves you. Need you,
but he retracted his statement so fast. And it was in one of the funniest ways. I can't even remember exactly what he said, but he did not repeat what he had to say. And you see it here in this virtual setting where people are more, they feel brave. They're typewriter snipers, and they will say vile things, or they will be bold enough.
What is your name?
That's a very good question.
All of a sudden, you see that boldness kind of disappears because people can't hide behind the anonymity anymore. But in terms of what we see with players and fans, I really don't think that we can use the money and the fame as an excuse. You really have to, and Mitch, you said it earlier, we really have to consider the fact that these players are people. And it doesn't matter how much money someone has. They can bleed blood and they can suffer from mental health issues. They can feel hurt by someone's comments the same way that anyone else can. So when should we consider players' mental health when we're talking about this level of harassment or criticism or heckling, or whatever you want to call it, just like we would with anyone else in society, especially now, because mental health is a very hot topic, if you want to call it that, but it's front and center, as it should be. Are we considering that, or why are we not considering that when thinking about NBA players?
Yeah, I think we kind of touched on it a bit here, right? Like, yes, like we absolutely should consider players' mental health. We should consider that they are humans, and just because they hoop or just because they make a crap load of money, that shouldn't matter. But I do think, and this is, a bit to Sean's point, not fully, athletes and people in the public eye do operate at a different level of acceptable criticism because of their public-facing job. That line, though, that's the trick, right? It's routinely obliterated. Like, it's constantly crossed, and there's no real way to rein it in yet.
When did hecklers become so like inappropriate? Like, do you remember the good old days? You go to a baseball game, and there's a guy that's like talking about this player's like high school stats or his mom's like former job, like a witty, clever way. And
I used to heckle.
Actually enjoying it.
I used to heckle Jason Giambi and just confuse him for Jeremy Giambi the whole
exactly.
game. It was just
and that's
fun.
hilarious.
It was great.
He probably liked it too.
I think there was always scum of the earth. Yeah, but I think there was always scum of the earth. It's just, they weren't getting as much of a spotlight as they are today.
Wow.
Thanks.
This guy just called you scum of the earth.
Yeah,
well,
I'll accept that.
I've
been called worse today. That's fine.
There are baseball players that talk about, I think, like coming to Toronto or something, and like them really appreciating the heckling and like appreciating the work and the research that these hecklers have put in, and like it's actually because baseball is sometimes you're standing around for like hours at a time, but like minutes at a time, and you hear a good joke in the background and it's like personalized to you. It's like it might make you laugh. So there is that fine line though, and obviously it is being crossed more and more, especially with social media and all that. But anyway, I said what I said.
Yeah. Like I said at the top of this segment, I am on my soapbox, and it has a label on it, and it does read hypocrite. So I do see the hypocrisy in this, and it's a part of learning. Sometimes we have to look in the mirror and acknowledge the part that we play in all of this. And we've mentioned it several times during this segment. But hey, sometimes you just have to have those discussions just to see if you can change your own perspective, or at least, see things from a different perspective. But let's take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about our favorite things. Just quick. We're going to quickly talk. We're going to end the episode with our favorite things that we can share with you. We'll be right back with more High and Low. Pew, pew. And we are back. I'm here with Hugo, Sean, and Mitch. What better way to wrap up the episode than to share our favorite things this week? Perhaps there are basketball-related things that our listeners would enjoy. So in the spirit of sharing, what basketball-related thing are you enjoying right now?
I'm not really enjoying any specific basketball thing, except watching the Lakers be horrible, and of course watching my Raptors be a pretty decent team.
Wait, what? Your Raptors?
That's my Raptors, man. That's my team. What do you mean?
I thought it was Miami.
To make that more clear on the podcast? Sure.
Well, let's do that next month.
I just want to say, like, when I was reading through this topic sheet and you were like suggesting channels that we may be watching, it got me thinking of court surfing. So I feel like Canadian cable like peaked at court surfing.
Yeah.
That's
so good.
That's the best way to watch sports, in my opinion. So I would love if they brought back court surfing.
Love it.
Or like a channel.
Did you answer the question though?
Like a stream. No, I didn't really answer the question.
Yeah, he answered. I love this hypothetical thing that doesn't exist anymore.
So I'll go next if I may. What I've actually liked so far this season is pretty short. The refs ain't screwing it up. Like, they've been really, really good. Like, I mean, I still can't.
I think Steve Nash would disagree with you.
Well, okay, yeah.
Yo, his eyes were terrifying. Oh my God.
Yeah, push that aside. I mean, the reviews seem to be going a lot more zippy, and they don't seem to be again, Steve Nash aside, they haven't seemed to be the star attraction of games as of late.
Do you know what a big contributing factor to that is, Hugo? The rule change on the take foul on people stopping transition. With that being on, the game it's better. It's better, period.
Oh, okay.
I called for that the other night.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, I mean, again, aside from the Steve Nash thing, the referees have not been the focus of the game. Because I remember last season, like, certain refs, you'd be like, oh, here we go. There's going to be a whole lot of nonsense.
Yeah. I've really enjoyed my Twitter feed because I follow some really excellent basketball minds who put together like really great clips of like how and why teams won and lost games that go beyond the usual, like this person scored this many points, like X's and O's breakdowns, show me your flare screens and your Spain action and your horns. Like I love just like getting into the nitty gritty about basketball. That's what I've been enjoying.
These are very excellent things that people would love to enjoy as well. So hopefully they will enjoy watching the Lakers continue to suck it, and they'll enjoy watching referees not
continue to suck at.
Continue to suck it. And you should share the people that you're following on Twitter.
I can do that. I'll send you a little list. You can put it in the show notes.
Yeah. So look for those in the show notes.
Why the fuck I can't shoot 3-point shots?
On that note,
wrap it up.
That brings us to the end of this episode of High and Low. Thank you, Mitch. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Hugo. And subscribe to High and Low anywhere you find podcasts. Make us a part of your weekly routine. You know where to find us. We're on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube. Links are all in the show notes, as I mentioned before. So where can listeners find you, Sean?
You guys can still find me on Instagram at Sean_controversy or on Twitter at controversy.
There you go.
With a K.
And Mitch, where can they find you, man?
Yeah, I'm gonna be ramping back up at Raptors HQ. I took a little hiatus there. Had to get some things in check, but I'm gonna be popping back over, writing a little more content.
Nice. And Hugo, the Sheik. Where can they find you?
I was gonna stay incognito, but now you can find me on Instagram at Big Honey.
Yes.
So send me some DMs.
Send some DMs, Big Honey.
Send some DMs. Let's see what happens. Thanks.
You go. If you change your name, I'm sending you a DM right away. You're not gonna like it. Wow. I'm gonna send it.
Wow, this guy said, "Let's see what happens." You don't have to wait and see. I can tell you what's gonna happen.
We know. It's known.
So go check out Hugo at Big Honey. That's BIG.HUNNI.
I'm gonna send you the most egregious.
Yeah,
I'm gonna send you death threats.
Gee, thanks.
Hey, once again, music is by Live of the Enjoy Music Group. You can find Live on Twitter and Instagram. He keeps it easy, keeps it simple. LYVE. Additional music by Sonny Rockwell of The Goodness. You can find him on Instagram at... I'm just kidding. You can't find him. Can't find him anywhere. Sound design by Vonn August. This is a Vonn+Abrahamm podcast, just in case you didn't know. So on behalf of Big Honey, on behalf of Sean Khan, on behalf of Sir Mitch Orsatti, thank you for listening to High and Low. We'll see you next week.
Honey Bear is coming to your town.